Hey everyone, I'm Keith and I'm here with Adam Lehman from Holley EFI, and we're gonna spend some time talking about these new digital dashes. Adam, very nice to see you today.
Nice to see you too, Keith.
We have two dashes here, so I guess first let's talk about how they are similar and how they are different.
Sure. So a few years ago we released this guy, 553-106. That's our 7-inch Holley EFI digital dash. It's called a 7-inch because the screen measures 7 inches diagonally. It's an 800 by 480 resolution, and this is a plug and play dash for Holley EFI. We also offer it in a standalone version. Now, just recently we released the new Pro Dash. This is a 12.3 inch screen diagonally, 1280 by 480 resolution, so it's got a little bit higher definition screen to it. Colors are a little bit more crisp. All the features that are in this are in this. So when we get into a little later customizations, switches and things like that, they both pretty much do the same thing and connect to the same thing, which would be the Holley EFI, also Sniper EFI. These are pretty easy to hook up. The 7-inch is a little less complicated than the 12.3. The only reason I say that is because there's one extra wire to hook up on this. Our newer harnesses have this CAN connector on them. Some of them have two. So this has the two CAN bus wires. It also has a 12-volt switched wire and a ground wire. So for the 7-inch, since the screen's a little bit smaller, a little bit less current draw on it, we provide the adapter that you need to basically plug this in, and it plugs in directly to your harness. We also have a adapter for our older style harnesses, which didn't have the power and ground on the CAN connector, so it has two pigtails that you hook up to switched ignition, and a chassis ground is fine. The 12.3 is the same way, except there is a constant battery power to hook up to it and a switched battery power. And they do not run through the main harness. They do not hook up to that small CAN connector. The biggest reason why is just because of the added current draw of this bigger screen.
So that wires up real similar to a Holley ECU.
Yeah.
So what are these two dashes compatible with? I get people asking all the time, can I run this on my carbureted car? Will it hook up to Holley EFI? Will it work with OBD2 and this and that?
Right. So these work with Holley EFI, V2, V3, V4, and the latest V5. So they'll hook up to any HP or Dominator ECU that we've ever made, essentially. They also both work with Sniper EFI, which we released a couple of years ago. What you have to do to switch, to basically either hook this up to Holley or Sniper, is just firmware. That's found online on the Holley website. It's a free download, so you basically just match up the firmware version with what you're hooking this up to and load it in, and it's a piece of cake. And we'll show you how to do that. These also are standalone. We're going to do standalone specific videos on these. They're very similar. The new Pro Dash has some extra I/O that the 7-inch doesn't, so when we do that video we'll kind of cover both.
Okay, so as far as I/Os and information it can display, virtual switching, stuff like that, can you talk about what these are capable of doing?
Sure. When you hook this up to your Holley EFI system, you're going to have the ability to display anything that is internal in the ECU. With the latest V5 release, I think there's somewhere on the order of about 400 parameters that you can view. You have up to 10 switches that you can set up on these. On the Sniper EFI side of things, it's the same way. You have up to 10 switches. You can also look at every single parameter within the Sniper EFI, whether it's from RPM, nitrous parameters, all the way down through, you know, maybe an air temp enrichment or a diagnostic channel. All that can be viewed here on these.
Okay, and you can also control things with these ECUs. You can have switches and things like that set up.
Yeah, so the virtual switches I mentioned, you can set up to 10. You can have those trigger things in the ECU, so you could trigger, for instance, I'm going to show you how to set up a switch on the dash to trigger a LED light that's hooked to the ECU. You could use the switch to enable different tables. So if you had multiple boost tables and you wanted to be able to choose quickly which boost table you were going to use, or launch retard or something like that, you can do that with a switch enable on here. And then on the standalone versions, you can also use those switches to trigger relays. So if you don't have an EFI system, you can still use these as a switch panel to turn on lights, turn on a nitrous bottle heater, things like that.
There was an update recently where you can now tune through the dash.
That's correct. So like I said before, the 7-inch and the 12.3, they both have the same functionality, so you can tune with either one of these. You need to be using Holley EFI V4 or later, but once these are connected to the CAN bus, these will pull in the calibration out of the ECU, and you have a pretty good variety of parameters and tables and graphs to be able to edit in here.